What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. And today we are going to be talking about a park that is located in Hot Springs, Arkansas. It's called Magic Springs and Crystal Falls. This is probably the only theme. It is the only theme park in the state of Arkansas. Um, we usually go around May-ish um, for our kind of like our summer kickoff type of thing. We start there and then, we do Six Flags and stuff like we always normally do. But we're going to do a review of the park. We do it once a year to hope that the park would actually, make any changes. First thing I want to talk about is the outlook of the park. The way the park looks is very clean, very upkept. It's not trashy by no means. It looks really, really nice, really beautiful. As soon as you walk in, you've got this huge Magic Springs sign with the beautiful water shooting up in front of it. Thought it was a really good thing, really good first impression by walking in. Um, let's talk about the rides. The ride selection, I feel like, is where this park really, really, really suffers because this park in its own has so much potential to become a great park. They just either don't have the finances or don't have the ability to take this park to the next level. Um, the kid ride selection is really good. They've got an entire section made just for kids. They've got a drop tower. They've got the little spinny balloon things. They've got very, very slow teacups. They've got a little spin around airplane ride, and then they've got a Ferris wheel. I think out of the 2 years, out of the last 3 years that we've been to this park, the Ferris wheel has only been operational maybe one day out of all of that time. So I'm not sure if it's a staffing problem or what, but it's always closed. So if you're going, don't expect the Ferris wheel to be open. They have a kiddie coaster. It's called the Diamond Mine Run. Really, really cool thing. Asher rode it. And usually he's scared on these kinds of rides, but he was just kind of just sitting there, kind of like a meh. So really not a scary ride. Great starting coaster for little kids. Uh, Moving away from the kids section, we can go into right since we're talking about Diamond Mine Run, we might as well talk about Big Bad John, which is the park's. It's a mine ride. Um, and then you've got the Drop Tower, Brain Drain, which is probably the only high thrill ride you'll get there at the park. Right next to Brain Drain, you've got the taxi cars, which are equivalent to Six Flags Over Texas antique cars, except they let single riders ride on these things. And there's a reason why Six Flags does not allow single riders on these cars. And this is a prime example why. There was an insane line that made it even longer because one person wanted to ride the car by themselves. The next person, one person. So I can see now why Six Flags does not allow single riders on the antique cars. Um, if you cut a little bit over past the taxi cars, you'll get the X Coaster, which is the only coaster of its kind in this hemisphere, and it's probably the worst freaking coaster in the park. Easily one of the worst coasters. Um, it's if you're trying to get a credit and say, oh, it's the only coaster like this in this hemisphere, should we stop by and get it? It's really not worth, depending on where you're coming from, it's not worth going to this park just to ride this ride. It's kind of like a one and done. You get the credit and you're done. You have no intentions to want to ride it again unless you're like 12 or 13 years old. And then, they might like it to ride it over and over again. The line on this thing can sometimes get long, other times not so much. When we were there at the park this weekend, the line really wasn't all that long, but the ride sucked. So, moving on to other rides, we have the Arkansas Twister, which we don't have any footage for because every time we go to the park, it's closed. But it's a wooden coaster equivalent to Judge Boy Scream at Six Flags Over Texas. It's just as rough, just about the same height, does the same thing. It's an out and back coaster with camel heels. That's pretty much it. So nothing too crazy there. Pretty good ride in the front though. Really smooth-ish ride in the front. Definitely recommend staying away from the back seats because it can tend to be rough, and you might need to see a chiropractor afterwards. Moving on to the other rides, we've got Plummet Summit. Really, really good ride in the heat. If you really want to get wet, I'd recommend riding in the middle towards the back. You get really soaked. Really nice for cooling off on a really, really hot day. And they actually have the bridge that you can stand on to get the big splash, and you'll still get wet that way. So if you just want to get really wet really fast, cool off real fast, just go stand on the bridge. When the shuttle comes down and splashes, you'll get wet, believe me. So yeah, that's really cool. And then the Parks SLC, it's a Vekoma SLC suspended looping coaster. Every park has one of these. It's equivalent to a Batman clone. The layout is different than a Batman clone, but I'm telling you this now. This ride is freaking rough. It's rough. And I used to ride this thing when I was a teenager, and I used to ride it constantly back to back to back, and rewrite it all the time because it was just so much fun. And then I go to Six Flags and I ride Goliath and Batman the Ride and these B&M SLCs. The B&M SLCs, this is why I'm so grateful for them, because they're so smooth and they're so well put together, and this is why parks invest in the B&Ms instead of the Vekoma. Just like Boomerang at Six Flags Fiesta, Texas, it's rough. Vekoma coasters are always, okay, most of the time the Vekoma coasters are rough, okay? If you have a good experience with a Vekoma, a really smooth Vekoma coaster, let me know in the comments down below, all right? So that way I can go check it out. But every single Vekoma ride I have ever ridden has been rough. Boomerang, Six Flags Fiesta, Texas, they ended up redoing the cars and the tracks and stuff. The ride was down for like half a year trying to make the ride smoother. It's still rough. Something about the Vekoma manufacturer that just makes these rides rough. So believe me, last year I said the Gauntlet was rough. The year before that I said the Gauntlet was rough. When we went this past weekend I rode it. Believe me, the Gauntlet, it is rough. It doesn't matter if you sit in the front, middle, or back. It's rough. But if you haven't been to some of these big time parks and this is kind of like your first experience with an amusement park, then it's probably not going to be so bad for you, okay, because you won't be used to it. People like us and coaster enthusiasts, we ride all these different roller coasters all over the place, and we're so used to smoothness of rides, so that's why our judgment is a little bit more sophisticated than somebody that doesn't. So if you haven't ridden it, give it a try at least once, okay? Give it a try at least once, and then you can let me know. Come back to the video. Let me know in the comments. What do you think about the ride? Is it rough? Did you like it? Did you have fun? Whatever. The thing that this park does not have is photo opportunities. You go to any other theme park all over the country, probably all over the world, and every single park you go to, they have photo opportunities where they've got photographers taking your photos. They can take your photos on the rides, but they have none of that here. Like I said, I'm thinking it's a bit of a finance problem. So believe me, I'm with you. The food here, I would not recommend eating the food. The food tastes like theme park food, but it's hiked up really, really high on prices. And now with inflation the way that it is in the U.S., it makes it even worse. So you'll pay about $20, $25 for a cheeseburger meal and fries with a drink and stuff. So trust me, you'll save yourself a lot of money if you just get stamped, get in your car, drive into Hot Springs to get something there, and then come back. You'll save yourself a lot of money. You'll lose time, but you'll save yourself a lot of money. I'd rather save money than lose time than the other way around. What we do is we always leave the park around a certain time, and we go to CC's Pizza, which is about 2 miles up the road. We get all you can eat for like $9, and then we come back to the park, And then we go to the water park, which is what we're about to talk about. The water park was actually closed, but the water park is probably the premier part of this park. The water park is amazing. It's great. We go Memorial Day weekend. It's coming up in a couple of weeks. We'll be going to the water park. That's when it opens. So we usually go just to have fun because it's so much fun. Asher loves it there. They've got so much. The lazy river. They've got kid areas. They've got so much there. So it's really, really good. It's not equivalent to like Hurricane Harbor or anything, but I feel like it's really, really good. The water park slaps. Okay, they've got some single slides that are really high. I would just be wary on those. Make sure that you don't ride some of the purple ones because sometimes if it's not wet enough, it'll scrape your arm all the way down, speaking from experience. But definitely something to check out if, you want to cool off. Just go to the water park. They've got the little surfing board stuff and lazy river, and you can get your own tubes and just kind of chill there. But the water park's probably the best part of the park, to be honest. You can rent cabanas and stuff like that. So it brings in a lot of crowds in the summer, mainly because of the water park. If you get like really, really hot days, it'll be the best time to go to the theme park if that's your thing, because most of the people it'd be too hot. They don't want to leave the water because they want to stay cool. So definitely something to keep in mind if you're going in the summertime. Um, Improvements. What do I feel like improvements? Operations at this park were horrendous. Everything was running one train. Everything. The shuttle, Plummet Summit, the shuttle water ride, I can understand that running one. Uh, but usually, if you've got long lines like that, you should just go ahead and throw in two. You can throw in two rides through chains on Plummet Summit because they do it at SeaWorld in San Antonio all the time. They run 3 and 4 different trains on a journey to Atlantis. So believe me, you can do it. When you go to Gauntlet, it was one train. Big Bad John, one train. Arkansas Twister, closed, but usually one train. Every single ride that was there was only running one train, and we went on a Saturday, and the park was completely packed. It had like 10 or 12 different school buses full of kids there. So believe me, if you're doing that, and with the taxi cars, they were only running 3 cars. So you get a bottleneck with lines, and your operations really, really suffer when you don't take 10 or 15 minutes out of your time to just add more to it. In their defense with the taxi cars, they really don't have any more because they're all broken. And I just don't understand how you can be closed for an entire year and then you open back up and everything's still broken. It's almost like you close the park and you don't do any maintenance to the park whatsoever. You just like, oh, well, we'll just, take a chance with it. Maybe it'll go good. Maybe it won't. Hope's not a tactic. So I have a really good feeling that the president of this park really doesn't care about the park. The only thing he really cares about is getting that money. He'll charge people full price for, getting half the attractions. Really not good for business and really not good for the community because you get people like me, they're going to sit there and tell you about it. So, um, driving from Dallas to this park or driving from where I am to this park 2 hours away, good for the water park, good for credits and leaving, but I wouldn't pay $80 to go get 5 credits because the normal price for these parts is $79.99 for one day. So believe me, I always try to give this park the benefit of the doubt. There are some things that are really, really good and other things that are not so much. Like I said, the people around this park don't really give a damn about this park, so don't expect anything from it. If you go to this park, make sure your expectations are low. If you've had any good experiences or any bad experiences, make sure to sound off in the comments down below and let me know. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we will catch you guys in the next one. Peace.